Yeah, okay, we're live again. We're back to talk about current events and maybe some news going on. Some interesting stuff. Um,
Let's talk about the boy that provided CPR first. That's
yeah,
that's a good one to start
I
off
dig
on.
this story, and with that, I also looked up some other stuff. Uh, let's see if this website opens up. Okay, so a kid named Ryan Zook, he's 17. So he's a high school kid, everything else. He's a cashier at Lee's Marketplace up in Smithfield. 55-year-old Bob Lewis started having a heart attack while waiting in line to cash out of Lee's, and Ryan jumped into action. He asked the guy if he's doing okay, everything else. The guy started going down. He collapsed, and then everyone else is gathering around, kind of freaking out. But Ryan Zook has been through CPR class, and he took it upon himself, checked the guy's pulse, and he took CPR from Boy Scouts. So I'm sure he did it years and years ago. Probably started when he was young, but he started to perform CPR, chest compressions, and then when and until the paramedics arrived, saved the guy's life. And this is a teenager. I mean, the kid stepped up to the plate, dove right in.
It's hard to believe that we're teaching him CPR in Boy Scouts, but not high school. I mean, it's a pretty important skill.
Well, there's no more Boy Scouts either, just so you know.
Well, yeah. So now, yeah, okay,
I
true.
Yeah, I first learned CPR in Boy Scouts, and then again in the military, and then again. But yeah, I think it should be offered in high school. I think it should be. I think if you own a business or if you're part of any organization, CPR classes, they're relatively cheap, and man, they're just worth their weight in gold. Apparently,
I think the CPR class should be right before the gun safety class, which should be before the square dancing class.
Mm.
But that's awesome that he did
No,
this.
the question is it gun safety then driver's ed, or driver's ed then gun safety?
Driver's ed should be probably in a category all by itself.
Well, in some states, you're required to, or you were, I don't know if you are still, but you were required to take a CPR class to get your driver's license. Not a bad idea. I don't like the required part. I think I would like to see, and I looked around to see if the county had any CPR classes on it, and there was no at the time offerings. Which would be nice is if our public health once a month had a CPR class and refresher, And how I would run it, I'd say if it's your first time, you show up at 6, and if it's your refresher, you show up at 6:30. Class is an hour long for first timers, half hour long for refresher.
Mm-hmm.
And you just show up once a year. We'll give you a certificate. We'll, have a parade in your, I don't know, but show up and get the CPR done. And it's not a it's not a hard class. They're just teaching you a process to keep your people alive.
Keep your head on straight when something happens. It's
Mm-hmm.
important to do CPR. I know me. I've taken it many times as I was a medic, and
Mm-hmm.
then my wife's taken it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Geez, I can't think of anyone in my family who probably hasn't had a CPR class, and it's important. It's
Yeah,
one of
mine.
those really important skills to know.
Yeah, mine started out in high school or in Boy Scouts when I was a kid. So I got to looking online. There's lots of online CPR courses you can take. It costs you $14, $13.95.
Oh God, that's a steal.
American Healthcare Academy, especially if you have children or elderly living with you, or you know, 13.95. The offer, well, it ended, so I don't know what the offer is now, but it ended on the 18th. But 3 easy steps: you select your course, you pass the test, and then you print your certificate. Now, I think a certificate for CPR isn't as important as just knowing the basics, uh, knowing the Staying Alive song from ABBA and things like that. Um, but you can seek them out. They've got online courses where you could probably spend an hour in front of your computer, probably don't even have to have the dummy. I mean,
hablar español.
yeah, yeah, you could probably learn it in Spanish, definitely. But yeah, so I would say, yeah, get your, jump on and get the CPR training.
And you never know when it's going to be your grandfather or grandmother in the shopping line, and you need some brave
Yeah.
17-year-old who went through Boy Scouts back then.
Mm-hmm. Or your child.
So our generation is going to be screwed because there's no Boy Scouts anymore.
I hope they're learning it somewhere else. Maybe in school they're teaching it, but something to think about is they, this is, I don't know, this is awful important stuff. It's the little things that you can do to save someone's life. And in that class, they usually teach you how to do the Heimlich and how to perform Heimlich on a young adult, or not a young adult, but a child and an infant, and the different
yourself.
things like that, and yourself. Different things. So this is life-saving classes that you should go out and pursue, and that's got me kind of fired up. I'm gonna pursue a refresher myself. Over the next few months, I'm gonna find one. I'm gonna take it and get it done. All right.
Just to go a little further on that, I remember one of my CPR instructors was telling me how he was choking. No one was around. So he stood up and jammed his chair into his gut to give himself a Heimlich maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget that story. I always...
It's how they teach you to do it, too.
You always learn something really good in these classes.
Yeah, it's how they teach it. That's part of the, learning to save lives. It's very important. All right, Dave, go ahead and let us know about the new place we're at, or go ahead and let everyone know where we're at totally.
Well, okay. Look, we've expanded our reach. So we're experiencing, the degradation of society on Facebook. Well, I am more than Jared, but we've decided to go into another platform called Gab. We're not doing our lives there, but we are posting there, and we have a group in Gab. Gab is more of a right-wing type.
Well, no, Gab,
social media.
Gab is the only truly free speech social media right now.
Well, they have their own servers, unlike all the other systems are using like Amazon storage and stuff, and they can get cut off like Parler did last year.
Mm-hmm. And Gab is more like a kind of a Twitter-ish type platform.
Well, it's kind of a combination of Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, yeah.
But their model is to be a Facebook-like platform. Because, they have a Gab Live system there. I haven't figured that out yet, but when I do, hopefully we'll be able to use that.
Actually, I watched the CEO of Gab, was it last night on Tim Pool?
Uh-huh.
And when Tim Pool asked him, do you have a, what do you call it, a rules of usage or whatever, terms of service? And the guy pulled the pocket constitution out. So I thought that was
that's cool.
Cool and funny. So, yeah.
Now, he's an Australian, I believe, or New Zealander.
No, I think he's from the Dakotas.
Is he? It's similar. Yeah. Okay.
No one wants... no, everyone... Well, never mind. The Dakotas let you in. Australia apparently doesn't.
Well, anyway, yeah. So we're on Gab. We're on Instagram. We are on Twitter. Mm-hmm. We are on BitChute, Rumble. And come on, I'm thinking
BitChute, Rumble, YouTube.
YouTube, yeah.
We're on all your podcatchers, Stitcher, everything. Yeah.
So, hey, we will take any likes that you want to smash on the internet. We will take them.
Yeah, and we love to have people jump on here and chat back to us. We like to have the conversation. We've had a couple of really good ones lately. We talked to Ian earlier today from the Crypto 6, and he's got a story about, in my opinion, it's the federal overreach and abuse. When we talked to him, from the way they served that warrant to him, that could have been served at 11 a.m.
Just to knock on the door and say, "Hey guys,
Two nice
we got to
gentlemen.
have you come with us.
We've got to look through your stuff. We've got to grab this." But the way they served it on a guy because he had cryptocurrency with an armored vehicle and all of that was just uncalled for.
And took his Bitcoin. My
Oh,
God,
well, yeah.
how
took it
insulting
and
is that?
ruined it. And he's not going to be. It's not like you can sue to recover that. The government just, yeah. Anyways,
And then we had a great conversation with All American Dad 111 this week. We had, these are just some extra shows we're throwing onto the platforms.
yeah. And he, and that's his name is Eric Post, and you've probably seen him. He's been kind of a big hit on Twitter lately, or not Twitter, TikTok. Yeah, that's the one.
And we're trying to get there. Eventually, we'll get there too. But.
Yeah. First, we have to learn how to do that stuff. Hell, I just discovered TikTok. I'm not ready to break out on it yet. But anyways, but yeah. So we're looking at and
upcoming March 5th, we're going to be at the Lincoln dinner
yeah,
for the Republican Party. And if
Yep.
there's an event that Democrats hold that is similar to that, we'd also really love to be invited. So
Yes.
do reach out to us if you're a Democrat, and libertarians, whatever you do,
Mhm.
I don't know. We're there though.
we love the libertarian ideas. We love the Libertarian Party, and we hope that they actually show up and perform. So I have brought up a news story I wanted to chat about today. I've actually got two that I really want to talk about, but I think we should go into some Utah legislature that is out first. I've got an angry story, but let's go through the legislature. So House Bill 124, is that correct?
That's what it says.
Yep, House Bill 124. So I'm not going to read the whole bill to you because that's drier than a popcorn fart. What it does though is it tightly defines how warrants are used. So it requires officers serving knock and announce and no knock warrants to wear readily identifiable markings or clothing that identify them as law enforcement officers, requires that officers knock and announce themselves more than once before forcibly entering a building. So it pretty much, unless there's a life on the line on the other side of that door, there's no more no-knock search warrants, which I think is excellent. I think you can knock and announce. The reason no-knock showed up was for the war on drugs. Let's face it, we lost that one. Let's do away with, we don't need guys in red uniforms kicking our doors down, checking for stamps. We just don't need it anymore. Sets a preference for warrants to be served during daytime hours, so no more midnight warrants. So unless they have an actual reason to need to go in at night, they're going to do daytime warrants, which that's even got to be better for law enforcement. They've got, they can plan for it long term. They can have more officers on during daytime because they recognize that's when warrants will happen. They can have more services available.
And you know what? I'm not going to say I'm against these no-knock search warrants.
I am.
If it is relevant to the need.
Yeah,
Look,
just
there's
a
no-
person under threat on the other side.
A person
That's it.
under threat, or maybe a hostile person. I mean, come on, let's face it. There's some hostile
If someone's in
acting
there,
figures.
if someone's in there, and they want to have a Polish hostage situation,
Mhm.
sit and wait till the next day.
Well, anyway, I think this is great to prevent the war on Bitcoin that seems to be on the way. I don't think we should be.
yeah.
I don't think we should be driving military vehicles through people's houses
Ever.
to get their Bitcoin.
Yep.
It's wrong. I hope I never have to say that to someone in Tooele or
Yeah.
Utah in general.
It allows for exigent circumstances when serving knock and announce warrants. And what that means, the exigent circumstances, is there a life-threatening need to be on the other side of that door? And so it does allow for no-knock warrants, but it has to have that exigent circumstance. And I hope this one passes. It needs to go through. It prohibits the use of no-knock warrants for misdemeanor charges, and then it also makes technical corrections. So nothing. So misdemeanor charges aren't going to have a no-knock warrant. Period. Doesn't matter.
And that, I mean, if it's not a violent crime or something, there's no reason to.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, can you fathom the fact that we actually have to come to this point? Like, are the police abusing power so bad that we actually have to define when they have to go through someone's house with a military vehicle? I mean, come on.
The crazy thing about the idea of the United States, was that they would have to have serious justification to get a warrant to enter your house. And that's because of the writs of assistance that the British Army was doing just prior to the Revolutionary War. And now we have to write laws that calls back, says, okay, wait, stop doing that. Okay, wait, stop doing that. And I think that's when we've kind of overstepped the bounds a little bit. So it's good they're doing this. It's sad that they have to do this.
Yeah, and in retrospect, you got to think about the poor souls that experienced this abuse of power to the point where we actually have to pay lawyers millions of dollars to write this kind of crap.
Well, we had that guy in Ogden that had a weed plant. The cops came in. He fired back at him. That's when this ball started rolling, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you've got the guy in what was it, Massachusetts? What was his name? Where they executed a warrant, shot him through the window next to his sleeping pregnant girlfriend. Yeah, I don't know. I think that tightening up on warrants is a good thing. I think it's the sponsor is Matthew H. Gwynn. I'm going to try to find out more information on that. Yeah, Rep. Matthew Gwynn. He is from
District 29.
Yeah, District 29, far west. So yeah, it's outstanding. Thank you, Gwynn. I like it. I think this does it aids in protecting citizens, protecting law enforcement, and also justifying actions needed. I think it makes the judges sit and control their actions a little more. So thank you, and I hope this passes. We'll definitely keep our eye out for it.
And we'll definitely be watching our representatives, how they vote.
Yeah, we have been.
Not like I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to go into it. But.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Next story I've got. Headline. Utah's largest newspaper calls for National Guard to quarantine the unvaccinated.
Now, when they say the newspaper calls for that, I don't think inanimate objects can provide opinions, but it's probably referring to a particular author, correct?
I think it's the staff, the majority of staff. But we'll read on. In an editorial published on Saturday, the Salt Lake City Tribune's editorial board called for the National Guard to be deployed to keep unvaccinated people from taking part in society. The paper also called for Utah's government to organize a mass vaccination campaign, even though it's been shown that the experimental now this is, I don't know where I found this at, but choosing Generation Radio. So you've all heard my opinions on the vaccinations. My opinion on the vaccination is if you want to get it. Talk to your doctor, get it. If you don't want to get it, don't get it. It's up to you. So I'm not going to read the unruly part. I should have probably read it from the transcript bulletin, but I'll go on. Where Utah, were Utah a truly civilized place, the governor's next move would be to find a way to mandate the kind of mass vaccination campaign we should have launched a year ago, going as far as to deploy the National Guard to ensure that people without proof of vaccination would not be allowed, comma, anywhere.
Anywhere.
That's what the Tribune's editorial board concluded. Now, I wonder if they got fitted for Hugo Boss after they wrote that.
That's a pretty strong statement.
That is a really strong statement. For any of those who haven't listened to the show for any period of time, this rhetoric is what boiled the German populace over into the Nazi fervor. The German media, Tribune, and the German government were saying that the Jewish people were carriers and spreaders of typhus, going as far as to calling them fleas.
Yeah,
That's how they initially got them to. That's how they got the German populace to watch militaristic people march through the streets, round them up, and put them into controlled environments so they didn't mix and mingle.
And I don't think that this would have the same effect, though, Jared. This more or less will anger Utah citizens to hear
Yeah, because
this media board.
Because that's a scary thing. I'll bet in
Talking.
Utah, the vax to unvax is probably closer to 50% versus 5 to 10% of the population.
And just so they know, it's very expensive to use the Army National Guard. I mean, you got to pay them. So, could you imagine how many you would probably need? And,
Let's not.
And then
forget.
they'd revolt against you, because I was in the Guard, and let me tell you something. We get pissed off too.
You know, in the National Guards, different states have different kind of overall professions.
You mean like special abilities for the combat field?
MOSs,
Yeah.
yeah. You know what Utah's is?
We are air refuelers.
No, our National Guard main profession in Utah,
What?
artillery.
Artillery. Okay.
I would 155s to keep you in your house. You know, Idaho, their main job is tank drivers,
Right.
armor and cavalry. So yeah, I don't know. I wonder how this works. Tribune.
I think they should step down from the
Honestly,
board.
I think you should hold your heads in shame. But let's read on.
Zeke Hale.
Blaming cowardice and misinformation at all levels as the reason for a recent surge in the virus and an absence of the COVID-19 tests in the state, the Tribune claimed that Utah's leaders were waving the white flag of surrender in the battle against the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, I have to say that everywhere has fared pretty bad during this. I think where you are, as far as your longitude in the United States, has bared a lot with it. Florida has bared better than New York, but Florida's warmer. So what's the argument there? Of course, Florida's sick time is during the summer when people are trapped in their homes. Telling you.
So they isolate themselves just because it's hot.
It's when you're trapped in your home. You're not getting any sun. You're not getting out and getting active. You're not, blowing the cobwebs out of your lungs. Honestly, yeah. Tribune, you lost all credibility with this.
Yeah, to ask your governor to use military force on the citizens.
On your friends and neighbors.
Nasty.
Yeah, that's heinous. That is awful. So, yeah, I would say I'd boycott the Tribune, but
I'm kind of wondering about the personalities.
I was doing an accidental boycott long before that.
Yeah.
I quit reading them a long time ago. It seems like our corporate media has sold us out to their funders a long time ago. So, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah.
All right. Well, enough of that story, Jared, because it makes me sick.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It is disgusting.
And here we are. Like, we're both veterans.
Yeah.
So the idea of someone giving us the orders to go Nazify our own community makes me ill.
Yeah, Yeah. Makes me wonder. I don't know. I'm sure glad that they're that I don't know. The pendulum swinging. So
Hmm.
all you guys on the Tribune, you're going to end on the other side of the political pendulum soon, and then you'll be crying, "Oh, the other side is so mean, and they're trying to subdue our rights." It's going to happen again. This is a cycle that we continually go through. Any other news stories? Or are we done?
Well,
We could
there
go
was something
through.
about free transportation for all or something
Oh,
like that in there.
free transportation for all. There is a transportation bill coming down. Where did I have it? And you know what? I'm gonna go here and grab it. Yes, I did. I did throw a transportation bill up there. There's a transportation bill being posed by. Give me a minute, as my computer. Will
Just put happy hour.
Is that all it is?
Yeah, there's no.
All right. It's our special ninja site. Ooh, and it's gonna take hours. Okay, so now Dave is a fan of transportation, so I pulled this from him, for him, not from him, for him. But a bill would offer free fare on any Utah public transit system. Now, I did do some asking around about the public transit system out here, and everyone I talked to universally said it only almost kind of sometimes works.
Yeah, because we only really have a few buses that
And
go
especially coming from Grantsville, we've got one bus that leaves. They have to come here to Tooele, and it takes the person I know that tried using it to go to their work, driving in her car, 35-minute ride, riding the bus, 3.5 hours.
through. That sounds like public transport.
So that's pretty rough to foist on people, especially in the common day, 10-hour day stuff. But a bill introduced ahead of the 2022 legislative session. You have to excuse me. I've been battling a cold, so not that I could read very well before. Would make all public transit in Utah free. Rep. Joel Briscoe, Democrat from Salt Lake City, filed House Bill 164, which would block public transit districts in the state from charging a fare to passengers. Briscoe told Fox 13 it is an extension of an earlier legislation he passed that subsidized transit fares on days when Utah's air quality is poor to encourage people to get out of their cars and onto the bus. And that's the tough catch-22. We would have to have more buses out here first before people would be able to take it.
Right.
We can't say we want to take it and give up our, cars and not have that available. So we'd have to get that out here first. So that'd be a leap out here in Tooele.
And I ride the bus on occasion, very rarely, but I do. And I count the passengers on the bus. And I'll tell you what, we don't need a big bus, I don't think.
Mm-mm.
We could probably shrink those suckers. Maybe have two of them instead of one big giant bus,
A couple of 3/4 ton Ford vans.
It's definitely overkill on the buses for the amount of people that use them.
Yeah. And then they don't have a lot of reoccurring bus route out here. One in the morning, one at night. You miss it, hope you don't get fired. We know that when we offer UTA without fares, we get increased ridership, he said. So if we want clear air days, let's provide some alternative means of driving cars and trucks. And you also see, when I see Salt Lake fight against some of the industries moving to the other side of the mountain out here to Tooele, I often wonder, they will argue against that, but then scream when they've got all that smog and traffic there in Salt Lake. So it's like they don't know what they're arguing for.
Yeah.
There's
better ways to do this for sure. And I'm not opposed to the idea of it being
not
free,
at
but
all.
you should have an option to voluntarily tip and voluntarily provide towards the system.
Well, what I would like to see is, well, let's say for out here in Tooele, because that's what I'm going to care about right now, Tooele and Grantsville. If they put forth a system where they said, who wants to buy an annual bus fare, you know, license, a metro pass, whatever, and put it out there, or not annual, do it on a 3-month basis,
I like that.
and but you let people buy it, and then you can plan. Okay, we've got this many people that want to buy one, so we know what to support it with,
Right.
and we'll go 25% over on availability, and then as the bus shows itself to be a functioning system, more people will sign on.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, I think that's the ideal way to do it. And you can do it at a lesser rate, make it cheaper and easier and everything else. You know, I don't know. I think bringing a train out this way would be cool, but there's just not enough people out here to support that.
And that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think passenger vans are the answer. I think that's the best way to go.
Probably, you know. I don't. There should be a way around it. I've been wondering about like Uber and all that. When is someone going to start having opening up an electric only Uber? So you've got the electric car, so it appears that we don't have any pollution coming from this vehicle. I mean, there still is pollution.
Right, but it's here's the thing about electric cars. We can keep that pollution in the places.
In Delta.
We can keep it in China, really. I mean, that's where they mine the.
Yeah, and Delta makes the electricity.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, in Afghanistan, places like that.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, yeah, if you look into the pollution of making an electric car, oh, those things never pay for themselves. Not breaking pollution wise. Never do. But yeah, so they're talking about doing that. We'll have to see if it passes.
He'd be an interesting character to talk to, I bet.
It would be good to see. I would like to see, even if they did it just around Salt Lake. Even though we all know bus drivers are maniacs and they're the scariest drivers on the road. No offense to any bus drivers. I'm just saying that. It's a funny thing to say, but you kind of are. It would be a good thing to see it just around Salt Lake. One, to help out people who need the transportation. Two, to lessen the traffic and, of course, the smog. I worry that buses might become kind of winter shelter for people who don't have shelter, things like that, and then that will negate any value that you initially started off with that. But
unless we can get those people who want a shelter to drive the bus.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. There we go. We got an idea.
Doesn't that sound
a bunch of homeless people driving buses? May as well. You got to do something with your time. Because I know I'm not putting dollars in your panhandling operation.
Yeah, that's a tough question. But yeah, it is what it is. All right, and then we've got one more story right here. Okay, no comments rolling in. Nobody on the show. Nobody watching wants to chat yet. Okay, and this one's for our buddy Tim. This comes from Revolver News. Now, Revolver is a right-wing news. I found them to be good news to read. I enjoy reading them. They're breaking stories that has been censored a lot.
That's my favorite kind.
On the big ones. But anyways, I have not proofread this. This one was just was sent to us by our buddy in New York, Tim. It says they've done this before. 5 past cases of FBI incitement. Okay, we're just gonna go down and see if we can find the incitement. Okay. Oh. All right. Thanks to 9/11, the 1993 attempt to, yeah, I said 91 earlier. It's a 93 attempt to blow up the World Trade Center is little remembered today. However, at the time, it was one of the most significant terror attacks in U.S. history, killing 6 people and injuring more than 1,000. Why does it have to? There we go. If a bomb, if the bomb had succeeded in its intended purpose, toppling the North Tower into the south, it might have claimed tens of thousands of lives. So in 1993, a van was pulled into the parking lot underneath the North Tower, and it had a bomb in it, and it went off. What is even less well known, though, is that the bomb that nearly murdered tens of thousands was built with the help of an FBI informant. Egyptian immigrant Ahmad Salim was a part of Ramzi Youssef's cell during the plotting of the attack. Salim, posing as an ex-Green Beret, was encouraged by the FBI to join the nascent New York Islamic extremist movement. Once Salim had penetrated the cell, instead of using him to thwart an attack, the FBI deliberately let the attack go forward.
Now, this is what you were talking about, saying that
Mm-hmm.
you said this guy actually asked the FBI to build a fake bomb, correct?
Yes. Law enforcement officials were told that terrorists were building a bomb that eventually used to blow up the World Trade Center and planned to thwart them by secretly substituting harmless powder for the explosives, an informer said after the blast. The informer was to have helped the plotters build the bomb and supply the fake powder, but the plan was called off by an FBI supervisor who had other ideas about the informer. Ahmad A. Salim should be used, the informer said. So,
So let's just recap this real quick. We
well,
helped build the bomb
yes,
with our tax dollars.
yes.
Okay.
Salim didn't just observe, according to the secret tape recordings he had made of his own conversations with the FBI. Salim actually helped build the bombs. Speaking with now, Salim was the informant, and he
was encouraged to join this Islamic
yes,
group
he was sent in there and everything
by the
else.
FBI.
Yep. And when he was building the bombs, he started recording these. He says, right, secret tape recordings, and you can go and listen to these.
So he's recording the FBI's conversation with him
Yes,
secretly.
telephone conversations.
Smart
he started
move.
recording. Yes, very smart move. Speaking with the agent about his expenses last April, Salim says costs were pushed higher by the building of the Trade Center bomb. Told that his expenses had been a little out of the ordinary, he replies in broken English, I don't think that because we was start man, it's rough. We was start already building the bomb, which is went off in the World Trade Center. He says the bomb was built by supervision from the Bureau and the DA, the district attorney. We know that the bombs start to be built. By who? By your confidential informant. What a wonderful, great case. A few months before the bombing, Salim suspended his undercover work. According to Salim, it was because he didn't like the danger of wearing a wire. But in 1995, FBI officials say they stopped working with Salim because he reportedly failed the polygraph test. After the bombing, Salim said he wanted to complain to the FBI senior leadership. He was told to keep quiet instead. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm from New York and I've never heard of the FBI building that bomb with the informant. This is all new to me today.
Well, the bomb that was built in the Whitmer case, as I think it'll come up, was built by an FBI informant.
I mean, this is actually hard for me to take in.
Yeah. The transcript quotes Mr. Salim as saying that he wanted to complain to FBI headquarters in Washington about the Bureau's failure to stop the bombing, but was dissuaded by an agent identified as John Antisev. He said, I don't think that the New York people would like the things out of the New York office go to Washington, D.C., Mr. Salim said to Antisev. Instead, the FBI redeployed Salim as an intelligence asset, having him participate in a second plot to blow up additional targets in the New York City area. So what they would do is they would have this guy go into these, let's face it, they may have been radical Islamic mosques, but he goes in there with ideas to, if he just goes in to listen, okay. But as we find out with the Whitmer case, they go in and give the ideas and set the ideas off on behest of the FBI.
And kind of just see who comes along.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is hard to read. I'm just going to say the bombing of the New York Tower. Salim was told to find the bomb by the terrorist cell. So, of course, he turns around and goes back to his FBI and says, okay, they've told me to find a bomb. The FBI says, okay, we've got a guy over here that builds bombs. So you're going to go see him. Salim and the guy both told the FBI, okay, fake bomb, you got it. And they said, no, we want a real bomb. What do you mean you want a real bomb? Okay, we can build a fake one. You can still charge him with having a fake bomb. Nope, we want a real one. And so that real bomb killed 6 U.S. citizens, ordered by the FBI. So that's just one story. This is a story I heard about many years ago. Yeah.
Let's post that one on the notes too. Just so, I mean, it's really hard to believe.
Uh-huh.
And, you better source yourself because this is so hard to believe that.
You can actually go listen to his recordings with the FBI online.
What do you think happened to that Salam guy?
I don't know. It's in 92. He's probably doing fine. Garland, Texas shooting. The first annual Muhammad art exhibit and contest in Garland, Texas was one of the strongest moments in America's long confrontation with the Islamic terrorism. Elton Simpson and Nadir Hamed Sufi hoped to kill dozens of unbelievers and achieve glorious martyrdom. Instead, they managed to kill only themselves, as they were both wounded by off-guard Garland police officer Gregory Stevens just seconds into their attack before being finished off by SWAT officers. Now, this one I have not heard of. The Garland attack was a macabre farce. It easily could have been a horrifying massacre. Simpson and Sufi were both wearing body armor and were armed with 6 guns and more than 15,000 rounds of ammunition. And if innocents had been killed, it would have been entirely due to the actions of the FBI.
Why would it be their fault?
I am wondering. When Simpson and Sufi drove to the site of the attack, an FBI agent was in a car right behind them. That information was dressed in... Oh, that informant was dressed in Middle Eastern garb, and he looked the part so well that local police nearly shot him in the mayhem. That informant also actively abetted the attack. Whoa. Okay, merely a week before the shooting, when Simpson shared a link about the upcoming cartoon contest, the agent replied by urging him to tear up Texas. Simpson replied by saying the agent didn't have to be so overt about what was to be done. Oh, after the attack, the FBI claimed that despite their agent being in direct contact with one of the shooters beforehand, the entire thing was a huge coincidence. The agent, they said, was at the Muhammad cartoon contest as a part of another infiltration operation and was surprised as anyone to see the other 2 attackers. So surprised, apparently, that instead of trying to stop the attack, he simply fled the scene in a panic. The fact the FBI agent was in a car directly behind the attackers at the moment they arrived and started their attack was a huge fluke worthy of a sitcom like Arrested Development. Holy cow. So the FBI knew about an attack and was on scene during attack and was going to let it carry on. I'll bet they were going to hold back, let a couple people get killed, and then storm in like the heroes, though. Jeez.
Well, that's still, at least the bomb building one is just still in my head. I'm having a hard time processing.
Yeah. For years, Hal Turner stood out as one of the most, this is a different one, Hal Turner, inflammatory figures on the American right. Getting his start as a frequent caller to Sean Hannity's radio program, Turner later ran his own online radio program while also participating in local grassroots activism in New Jersey. Routinely, Turner's rhetoric turned violent. He called for American citizens to gun down illegal immigrants and suggested that white people would have to lynch blacks and Hispanics if street crime wasn't brought under control. Whoa, this 2006 midterms right after it. On December 6, 2006, Turner announced. You go ahead and read for a minute.
All right. On December 6, 2006, Turner announced, "We may have to assassinate some of the people you elect on November 7th." Yeah, that's never a good thing to publicly announce.
It's never a good thing, really, to think. You don't want to have assassination be a means for attaining political
Yeah, once you get to that point, you've
strength.
lost your civilization.
Your country's not in a good place. You've lost.
So we'll continue here. If you are too stupid to turn things around with your vote, there are people out here like me who are willing to turn things around with guns, force, and violence. We hope our method does not become necessary. So, okay.
So that was in 2006.
In 2008, Turner specifically promoted violence against a local school official for introducing a pro-gay and pro-diversity curriculum. And that's not a positive thing to counter the pro-gay, pro-diversity curriculums. Lexington Superintendent Paul Ashe of Newton has been threatened by a New Jersey radio host, urging listeners to use threats and violence against Ashe for the school district's new diversity curriculum. So we got a guy here. He's a little crazy.
Let's go ahead and bump down to what he did. Okay, here we go.
So finally, in 2009, Turner called for the murder of federal judges Frank Easterbrook, Richard Posner, and William Burr after they upheld Chicago's strict handgun ban. Okay, so he's pro-gun for sure, I guess.
Okay, so we go down. He did that. He called for the death of judges, but then they went and arrested and charged him with making criminal threats to intimidate the judges. But as his trial proceeded, Turner made a stunning revelation. He had been acting on the FBI's orders the whole time.
What? So all these threats and things like that were just like
the FBI trying to draw out radical right, I guess.
They called for Valhalla.
They called him Valhalla, but it's more than a nickname. For more than 5 years, Val Turner of North Bergen lived a double life. The public knew him as an ultra right-wing radio talk show host and internet blogger with an audience of neo-Nazis and white supremacists attracted to his scorched earth racism and bare knuckles bashing of public figures. But to the FBI and its expanding domestic counter-terror intelligence operations in the wake of the September 11th attacks, Turner was Valhalla, his code name as an informant who spied on his own controversial followers. The FBI, realizing the PR mess they had gotten themselves into, claimed that Turner was only a fringe asset whose behavior was outside of the FBI's control. What? If you have a nut job like this anywhere on your books, you're wrong.
So basically what they were using him as the light to attract the bugs.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think I see anything too bad about that.
Yeah, except that how do I
the Russians, the Chinese, they all use that method too.
Sure. Oh, great. If they're using it, then that means we probably should.
Well, I mean, if you're a government, that's one way to be successful.
No. Okay. What if one of them judges had been killed? because of what he stood up because of what the FBI told him to do. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's why we don't use it.
Well, yeah, I guess maybe they were kind of weighing the benefits against the risk matrix, and they're like, okay, one or two judges or an insight, but we have these terrorists.
Say, okay, so we kill one or two judges, and possibly catch one nut job. I would say the risk matrix still doesn't weigh out.
Okay. Well, that's how your government operates, though. I mean,
I'm not a fan. I'm not. What if one of those judges were killed, or what if that school board member? What if he was killed?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what if some guy took it to heart?
Well, I think the government calls that collateral damage.
Yeah, not a fan.
Right. It's kind of like those poor kids in the car that they droned not too long ago after we got creamed.
Let's remember. Oh, they just released the video of that. The Department of Defense did, and I watched it. And man, killed 10 people,
kids, right?
3 adults, 7 children. Youngest one being, I think it was 18 months old. Yeah. Remember, this is your government, folks. This is what you get taxed for. That's something to put in perspective. You get taxed every year for this. An investigation by the record based on government documents, emails, court records, and almost 20 hours of jailhouse interviews with Turner shows that federal authorities made frequent use of Turner in its battle against domestic terrorism. As Turner, and I'm telling you, it's just what it is. It's their battle for their relevancy. They don't care about domestic terrorism. Because what they're doing is inciting domestic terrorism when they have a guy out there saying stuff like that. Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Let me ask you.
I'm on the fence with this one, though, Jared.
Let me take it a little further. Okay. So, let's say a regular radio talk show host talks like this, says the things he was saying, calling for violence against judges. Would he not be arrested and charged?
I think if it wasn't an FBI informant, yeah, probably.
Okay. Let's go.
I think it's interesting they targeted Sean Hannity, though.
Let's go logical conclusions. All right. So let's say you've got a guy who's violent, now committing racist acts in the streets. Okay.
Just one
Is
guy
it okay?
or a group?
Just one guy trying to incite other guys to join it.
Okay.
Is it okay if he's an FBI informant? Because he's drawn out the real racists doing it. You see what I'm saying? It's just a logical conclusion argument.
It's definitely a very KGB tasting kind of operation, you know? It's...
Yeah. Yep.
But, you know, I don't know. Maybe they did catch some pretty bad stuff. Maybe it seems like he's been an operative for quite some time. He was doing his job, and they even sent him to Brazil to do operations, and who knows what they caught. I mean, I'm sure they're not going to talk about what they really caught with this bait and switch program. But it seemed like it was worthy to continue on for quite some time, some duration, and spend a lot of dollars on. So, but yeah.
Now, and this guy, after the FBI told him to do all this, he was convicted of it and spent 3 years in prison. Don't work for the FBI.
So Turner was convicted for threatening the 3 judges and spent 3 years in prison. According to Turner, the moral is simple. He trusted the FBI and was betrayed. Yeah, well, that's crazy.
If you and I were a political movement, one of us would be an FBI agent, just by statistics.
Or both of us.
Well, the other one would be a DEA agent. We'd be pointing fingers at each other. Anyways, or ATF.
Now the ending is what does surprise me. So Okay. I get the operation. I understand the mechanics of it, and I can understand why governments would do that. I know it sounds sick, but I get it.
Threw him right under the bus.
And then at the end, they put him under. There's something else to it. There's got to be another twist to the plot.
What, that the FBI didn't want to have a black guy on national TV?
Kind of like you got to get rid of the evidence type of thing.
Probably, but he's got the receipts. It says right there.
3 years sounds like a plea deal of sorts for something like that.
So, as Turner took his radio show and blog to say that those who opposed his extremist views deserve to die, he received thousands of dollars from the FBI to report on such groups as the Aryan Nations, the White Supremacist National Alliance, WSNA, WSNA, and even a member of the Blue-Eyed Devils skinhead punk band. Is it a rock band?
Well,
a punk band?
You don't notice any like BLM type groups in there.
Well, yeah. Later, he was sent undercover to Brazil, where he reported a plot to send non-military supplies to anti-American Iraqi resistance fighters. Now, okay, not a bad thing to do, protect your soldiers, even though we shouldn't have been there, but protect your soldiers. Sometimes he signed Valhalla on his FBI payment receipts instead of his own name. That's insane.
So he was totally into this.
Sure. I'm not saying he wasn't a dirtbag, but I'm still saying you don't let him. Don't put fuel on the fire. If my house was on fire and the fire department showed up and started throwing, I don't know, gasoline around the house, I'd have questions, and that's what the FBI did. Sure, he was a dirtbag from the start. It's probably how he got in contact with the FBI. I don't think the FBI should have fed him or paid him. And that was your tax money that went into his pockets to do that.
It was our tax money.
Yeah, I know.
Come on, you can't get out of that.
Damn it. One day I'll find a loophole. Okay, COINTELPRO. This is a long one. This was okay. This was when they went against the Black Panthers, against Martin Luther King. This was back in the day. For all my Democrat friends, I want you to pay attention right now, real close. This was when the FBI was conservative. Okay, from 1967 through 1970. Okay, we'll just start from start. FBI's famous 15-year-long counterintelligence program, abbreviated COINTELPRO, is best known for spying on Martin Luther King Jr., sending him an anonymous letter encouraging him to commit suicide. It is also notorious for monitoring various anti-Vietnam War protesters and using Stasi-style efforts to embarrass or discredit activists and extremists deemed a threat to American values or stability.
I wonder if they still have the suicide letter that they sent him. That would be interesting to read.
I think his family has it. But COINTELPRO's activities were far more eclectic than just espionage and smear tactics. The FBI also routinely employed agents provocateur in ways that clearly paved the way for shenanigans like the Whitmer kidnapping plot.
And that's your favorite one right there, is that?
Yeah, well, it's the most
Whitmer.
recent. You go ahead and take over for a minute.
All right. From 1967 through 1970, Tommy Tungaya, better known as Tommy the Traveler, hopped around the country posing as a radical member of Students for a Democratic Society. That sounds threatening. In fact, Tungaya was an FBI informant who persistently urged nonviolent activists to up their game. In The Revolutionary Was a Cop, one student stated that on a different, presumably earlier occasion, Tommy had brought into the dorm room some gasoline and a Coke bottle, and he said, "Let's go out and throw a Molotov cocktail in front of Superdome." I'll get to talk. And I said, "You're crazy." Okay, so your informant is trying to get them to
He's
throw
up
a
in the
Molotov
game.
cocktail.
These guys want to go out and protest, and he shows up and says, let's put a little fire on this action.
All right. So Tommy said, "Well, come on. It'll make a nice boom and get the residents stirred up. Throw a little scare into them. Show them what we can do." What we can do.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty tough. 2 students at Hobart College, acting as Tungaya's urging, firebombed a campus ROTC building and were then swiftly arrested and sentenced to several months in prison each. Okay, so yeah, here you have people acting on this incitement. What if someone was in that ROTC building, right?
Yeah.
And this is just to stop some protests because people are protesting.
Protesting the Vietnam War.
Okay. COINTELPRO activities were only exposed when the Citizens Commission to investigate the FBI, a left-wing activist group, broke into an FBI field office in the suburbs of Philadelphia, stole relevant documents, and then gave them to the media, which that is not legal to do.
It is not, especially if you listen to the media.
Right.
You can't read stuff. That's what Cuomo said. He's no longer media, though. What is Cuomo now? But anyways,
It's like a podcast.
but they did. Yeah, we're all podcast. But no, they did. Another crazy story is when Jehovah's Witness broke into the FBI offices.
God,
That's a
things,
wild story. They broke in and stole all their shit.
Can you imagine the things you would have found in Building 7 if it didn't fall down? Anyway.
Imagine what you find in Hoover's journal, page 1, this is me in my negligee. Page 2, I've got all the information on this guy running for president. Wow. But anyways, yeah, go on.
As soon as the program became public, the FBI announced it would immediately stop all such activities. Yeah, right.
Shocking. Oh my gosh.
We'll just stop.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they did. According to ex-operative Joseph Burton, the FBI paid him to set up and lead a group of Maoist radicals, the Red Star Cadre. They're probably still going today, as far as I can see in the Democratic Party.
I think that's all of Portland, isn't it?
Burton says the FBI paid for the group's equipment, travel, and lodging when it journeyed to the 1972 Republican National Convention in Miami. While there, Burton encouraged demonstrators to try to topple a bus and then blow it up. They tried, but were unable to do so. He ran the group until 1974.
Now, I want to point out, the FBI sent this group to the Republican National Convention. I want you to think about this. The FBI at the time was conservative and leaned to the side of the Republicans. And they were willing to sacrifice Republicans to get an attaboy. Democrats, the FBI are on your side now. So who will they be funding right now to sacrifice to get their attaboy? I want you to think about that.
And this was back then. I mean,
In 74, they liked the Republicans, and they were willing to sacrifice Republicans to get that. We got the bad guys attaboy. And then now, they like the Democrats. So, you guys should watch out. The FBI will be coming for you because they're not going to try to commit horrible, heinous acts against Republicans right now. They don't like the Republicans. They're going to try to get the sympathy points and the attaboy points for actions in aid or redemption of the Democrat side. Retribution's probably a better word. Also, what they don't tell you in here about COINTELPRO is, as I've said before on this show, COINTELPRO was the sub-organization that was used to tear down the Black Panther Party. I am not a huge fan of the Black Panther Party. I understand their motives, and I actually like their beginnings. I think they went wrong in the end, but it is because of COINTELPRO. I like that the Black Panther tried to defend themselves when the police were unable or unwilling to. COINTELPRO gets involved. Next thing you know, there is a civil war in the Black Panthers where Black Panthers were traveling from New York to LA and LA to New York to kill each other. And that's something to think about. And they both fled. One fled to Africa and the other one fled to Cuba. And the funny part is when they went to Africa, what's that country in Africa that the commies were taking over and Cuba sent some soldiers in? Gosh dang, starts with an A.
Nigeria?
No, starts with an A.
Oh, he said A.
Gosh dang it, my mind is frazzled. We only got one more after this, and we'll go quick. But anyways, the one that went to the one that went to Cuba and the other one went to Africa, and that was when Cuba went over there and tried supporting the communist revolution. It's a comical story, but the FBI has not been a friend to the United States citizens, not since its inception. The FBI was first, some of its earliest usages were to do political subjugation, holding down political players to stop people from drinking beer and things like that. All right. The Herald Square bomber, Shahawar Martin Siraj, was one of the government's biggest catches in the early years of the war on terrorism. In 2004, Siraj, a bookstore employee, was recorded by an FBI informant, Osama Eldawoody. That is a cool last name, the Eldawoody. Plotting to bomb the Herald Square subway station in New York. He was arrested, convicted of engaging in a terrorist conspiracy, and sentenced to 30 years in prison.
So hold on, Jared. Now, just keep that in mind. Like, the FBI stopped a bombing that would have taken out a subway system.
I'm glad they stopped it. Except, without Eldawood's prodding, there would have been no conspiracy at all. Eldawoody, who was paid $100,000 for his informant work, actively inflamed anti-American sentiment in Siraj, acting as an older mentor who pushed him to direct violent action. And I'll bet if they tested Siraj, he would be very low on the IQ spectrum.
To be able to manipulate and convince someone to do that for $100,000?
No, not Eldawoody. No, Siraj, the guy he convinced to do it.
Okay. Yeah.
They commonly pick up guys that are just this side of
semi-retarded
of Down syndrome, and they get them all fired up and hand them they feed the baby sugar and shake it till it explodes. And that's what they do. Siraj was quietly pleased when Eldawoody started offering him rides to work. The young man listened to his friend, counseled him on personal responsibility in the Prophet's sayings. Over time, Siraj found himself pouring his heart out to Eldawoody about his financial woes and about Manal, the woman in Pakistan he had met online. He hoped to marry her soon. He was distraught when Eldawoody confided in him that he was suffering from a liver disease and worried that it was potentially fatal. Siraj promised to care for Eldawoody's daughter if anything happened to him, and began telling him in his broken English, "I am like your son. I want you to..." He gives this sob story on him. The Siraj guy says, "I'll take care of your daughter if anything happens. I'm like your son." This guy is just using it. Heartless. Eldawoody, eat a dick.
I mean, this guy's predatorial. Yeah. But $100,000 was the motivation.
Yeah, that's not enough for me to do something like this to someone.
No. I don't think
that's not
should
enough.
Ever be done.
Slowly, their conversations took on a darker edge. Eldawoody complained to Siraj that the FBI was harassing him, maybe because he was Muslim who knew about nuclear engineering. They discussed the Abu Ghraib. I can't remember how to say that. It's been a while. Prison scandal and online images of Muslims being tortured and killed in the wars overseas. When Siraj saw a picture of a girl who was raped, he broke down and cried. Eldawoody seemed to share his friend's anger. Something had to be done, something that would get the world to pay attention. Eventually, Siraj tried to back out of the plan, but Eldawoody Elda Woody manipulated him to stay the course. Mm.
So you see, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to see what's going on here.
Yeah. That man, that's a lot of
We could keep going on this story, but I think we know how it
yeah.
ends.
That's a lot of junk. I need to apologize to everyone for my rough reading and my cold tonight and my constant coughing, but no, that it feels to me like at any cost they want to get that attaboy. I mean, in the build up to Waco, the ATF had that minor kerfuffle up at Ruby Ridge that the FBI had to come in and rescue him at, when they shot the mom holding the baby in the face. She was unarmed. Shot a mom out from under the infant. The baby was, I think, something like 9 months old. Shot the mom right in the head.
Now, one thing to keep in mind, Jared, is when you're a government employee, you're evaluated every year by your supervisor or something like that. So you get a scale of 1 to 5. And when your job is these FBI agents out there trying to save the world, you need to save the world. And look, if there's no world saving to have happen,
you got to have a need for you to save the world. That's true.
You got to have a need for you to exist in your job.
Well, how Ruby Ridge kicked off is the ATF is up there watching white supremacist groups, right? And Weaver, an ex-Green Beret, lived in Michigan, didn't like the way it was going, so he left. Moved up there, just wanted to live by himself. He was probably prejudiced, but he was a Christian separatist. Wasn't a white separatist. He just Christian was kind of his big motivating factor. But up there, a lot of white supremacists were around. He would go down to the local bar and meet up with them. And he wouldn't meet up with them, but when you go to the local bar and everyone else there is part of a group, you end up running into him. He made loose friendships with a few of them. So the ATF sends an informant in to have him saw his shotgun down. Saw a shotgun a 1/4 inch past the 18 inches is required past the trigger or whatever. And he tells him no. The guy harasses him for, I think it was like a year. Hey, saw this off. Finally, it's like, fine, I'll do it. Saws it off. That gives the ATF an excuse to get him. All they wanted to do was to get to him, to force him to be an informant on the white supremacists. A guy, he wasn't a member of their group, but they wanted to get him, just a family man, and force him to join their group, to snitch on that group for them. That was it. So not only were they shifty and had some nuisance story, but they wanted to force this family man to put himself in danger so that they could have an informant on the inside.
Yeah. And that's what you got to do when you're an FBI agent in order to get that 5 on your eval.
That was the ATF. So the ATF does that, right? Well, they totally fail. So the FBI shows up to support them. FBI sniper shoots the mom out from under the infant. Kill the son, and Weaver's kind of left in a no-win situation there. So finally they have a guy named Bo Briggs, I think's his name, come in, a Green Beret colonel, and he talks him out, and Weaver wins. Weaver and his daughter win the lawsuit against the ATF and the FBI, win a lot of money, a lot of our money, which I'm actually okay with them getting my taxpayer money, because people who were entrusted by my taxpayer money were corrupt. So anyways, so the ATF...
Money can't correct that, though, Jared.
No, it cannot.
You would have to go on a campaign of revenge and bloodshed in order to correct that.
Well,
and you'd still not be complete as a human being.
Yeah, so we roll around a year later. The ATF was on the chopping block in the Senate. They were going to cut their budget like 40% because of their constant failures and their continual desire to write laws themselves. And this ATF, I hope you're listening, quit writing frickin' laws yourself. That's not your job. You're bureaucrats, not lawmakers, D-bags. Anyways, and so they have these constant failures. They continually try to write laws and then try to bring people up on charges on laws that they made up on the fly, and it keeps getting kind of tossed down in the courts. So they're up on the chopping block. So they go shopping around for the next customer to give them that attaboy. And that's when they turn their eyes on Waco, Texas. So the ATF says, oh, we're going to go down to Waco, Texas.
We'll fix everything there.
We've got to get this guy for his guns, right? Because supposedly they were making illegal guns down there. So they go cruising their happy butts down there.
Mm-hmm.
Come to find out, all the guns they were selling, all the equipment they were selling was perfectly legal on the up and up.
That doesn't look good on your eval.
Oh, so what does the ATF do? What does ATF stand for again? Anybody? Alcohol, tobacco,
and
firearms.
It's a general
They start looking around for what can we get him on next.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a pedophile. He married this 16-year-old. Well, in Texas, he had a legal marriage to a 16-year-old whose parents signed the marriage certificate. Am I saying he's right or wrong? No, but it was legal.
Mm-hmm.
So the ATF's like, well, how do we get him? How do we get him? What do we do? So every day, David Koresh would jog every morning. Wake up 7 a.m, go for a jog down this dirt road. Every morning. The ATF sat every morning and watched him jog by their secret hidey hole house and jog back every morning. The ATF sent an undercover agent in. That other undercover agent went in there and hung out for like a month.
Became friends with him, right?
Mm-hmm. So what does the ATF opt to do on that, I think it was a fall day? Instead of getting him on that jog, they raid that house full of women and children.
Yep.
And then the FBI obviously can't handle it or the ATF can't handle it because they are a cat litter organization. They can't handle it. So the FBI gets called in and Delta Force. And they do what they do. There's a sniper's hide. The same guy who shot Weaver's wife had a hide where supposedly he was just observing. But when they went and looked at it after, it had empty shell casings on the ground. Makes you wonder how many of them women and children maybe got a 30 caliber hole put in them.
I'm surprised they would let that same person continue to operate.
I think he just retired 2 to 5 years ago, I think. Yeah. One day we'll have to do a show on him.
Can you imagine being told to shoot some women and children for your country? Your own country?
This guy's a straight up sociopath. Straight up sociopath.
What,
The minute I shot an unarmed woman out from under her baby, apparently the story is he did it on accident. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But the minute I did that, I would have resigned. Just too much. It's a bridge too far.
She didn't even have any Bitcoin on her or anything either, did she?
Bitcoin wasn't invented yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, so let's remember, man, these are your feds. You are, you're just a tool to their aggrandizement. That's
now,
it.
again, I'm going to seriously say this. I really think that they're out there proactively digging up for these situations. They want these situations to happen so that they can stop them and become, that gives them validation.
Digging up, they're searching to make these situations happen.
I think they dig into the situation, and then when they realize maybe we can incite the situation a little bit harder to get what we want, then they kind of veer off into that craziness area of mentality. But they got to get something in order to validate themselves.
I don't care. Minute an innocent person is lost on it.
I'm not giving them any justification, but I'm telling you that's what's happening. Our government grades the employees, and if they don't validate themselves, and they're going to validate themselves no matter what, they want to get their paycheck.
I honestly think that them standing at a gas station with a window squeegee is too much benefit for them.
If they have to put us in camps to get that 5 on their evaluation,
they would in a heartbeat. They would, and that's your government, folks.
I mean,
that's what you get.
That we just saw the show previously where they go into somebody's house with a military vehicle ram and take his Bitcoin.
Just for Bitcoin. Anyways, thanks for joining us. Long show. We prattled on for a minute there.
Good times.
No comments, so that's odd. Usually we have a few spicy takes come out.
There was just no disagreements today.
No, that or it was all disagreement. All right. We'll see you guys next week.